What are you doing? We don't stop here.
As you know, I am a huge admirer of David Lynch. He was a visionary with extraordinary talent, unique in his kind, able to diagnose the illnesses of the American soul long before they erupted in plain sight. Today, I invite you to dive into the black heart of his most venomous and most accomplished masterpiece, Mulholland Drive. But first, welcome to Daily Amin. Here, we're all about pop culture, misunderstood rock stars, cinematic masterpieces, music legends, true crime stories, and most of all, talking about them. So go ahead, like this video, drop a comment, share it with your coolest friends, and don't forget to subscribe. Premiered at the 2001 Cannes Film Festival, Mulholland Drive received a triumphant welcome there and earned Lynch the Best Director award. Hailed as the best film of the 21st century by the BBC and the New York Times, nominated for the Oscars and the Golden Globes, Mulholland Drive is more than a film. It is a relentless statement. Hollywood is hell. In Los Angeles, Betty, a hopeful and naive aspiring actress, meets Rita, who has amnesia after a car crash on Mulholland Drive. Together, they investigate Rita's past. Betty lands a dazzling audition, and their search leads them to the mysterious Club Silencio, where illusion is revealed. The opening of a blue box tips the story over. Betty gives way to Diane Selwyn, a failed and desperate actress, eaten up by jealousy toward her ex-lover, the star Camilla Rhodes. Racked with guilt after hiring a hitman to kill her, Diane takes her own life. The story behind Mulholland Drive is as revealing as the film itself. At the turn of the year 2000, David Lynch was developing a pilot for ABC. Shot in 1999, this 2-hour feature was conceived as an enigmatic introduction to a possible series, with an open ending that allowed for multiple twists. The network executives, puzzled by the non-linear script and the lack of clear resolution, rejected the project after viewing it. Rather than give up, Lynch, with the support of producer Pierre Edelman at Studio Canal, turned this failure into a radical artistic opportunity. He reclaimed the material, rewrote the script, and organized new shoots in October 2000. Nearly 50 minutes of new scenes were added, including the crucial sequences that follow the opening of the blue box, the physical relationship between Betty and Rita, and the tragic revelation of the true identity of Diane Selwyn. This hybrid genesis, half pilot and half film, explains the work's unique structure. It works like a trap with two triggers. A first part builds a dream. A second part reveals its bitter reality. The choice of Naomi Watts to play Betty and Diane is a stroke of genius that borders on fate. Before Mulholland Drive, the English actress's career was at a dead end. She had lived in Hollywood for years, going from failed auditions to small roles in poor productions, to the point of seriously considering quitting acting. She survived financially on the brink of eviction, embodying perfectly the distress and anonymity that the film would portray. Lynch's casting method, often choosing actors from a photo and the intuition of a meeting, became her lifeline. Presented without makeup and without particular expectations, Watts impressed the director with her authentic, latent emotional power. Lynch saw in her not only the radiant, idealistic Betty, but also the broken, disillusioned Diane hiding behind her. He had found the perfect actress to embody both sides of the Hollywood coin because, in a way, she had already lived both. From the outset, David Lynch sets up a visual code with diabolical clarity. One of the first things to note is his use of color and light. Bright and gleaming sequences, bathed in warm tones and clinical sharpness, represent the sanitized, idealized American dream. The apartments of Betty and Coco are flooded with light, the auditions take place under flattering spotlights, and the streets of Los Angeles seem always sunlit. This clean, glossy aesthetic belongs to the Hollywood fairy tale, the marketed fantasy. In contrast, the dark scenes, with strong contrasts and saturated or washed-out colors, symbolize the hidden and troubling sides of that dream. Producers' offices, back rooms, alleys behind diners, and Diane's sordid apartment are plunged into a menacing gloom, an obscurity that seems to ooze corruption and despair. This luminous split is not only aesthetic, It is ontological. It separates dream from reality, the ideal from its rotten underside, and guides the viewer through the gradual slide from one to the other. The power of Mulholland Drive lies in its absolute refusal to cheapen the psychology of Diane Selwyn's tragedy. It is not another film that innocently or complicity shows stories of women tearing each other apart for men's attention. Lynch, on the contrary, takes apart with surgical clarity the mechanism that produces this rivalry. He shows us, without any ambiguity, that it is not supposed feminine weakness or simple romantic jealousy that drives women to destroy each other, but a patriarchal system in the hands of men that sets them against one another in order to dominate and exploit them. Lynch draws a map of power where men hold all the levers, often grotesque but always all-powerful. Producer Mr. Roque, a frail, decrepit man who manipulates the world from a dark room like a malevolent god. The Castiglione brothers, representatives of a mafioso and violent capitalism. The cowboy, an archetype of authoritarian America who lays down the law with a condescending smile. Even the director Adam Kesher, whose masculinity and talent are humiliated and subdued until he accepts to become a willing cog in the system. These men are not rivaling for women. They collude to control the story, the bodies, and the careers. In this perverse economy, women serve as currency, objects of desire and prey. The famous audition scene where Adam must choose the girl could not be clearer. He is presented with a photograph of Camilla Rhodes, and his assent is not artistic, it is political. He must accept that an actress be imposed on his film for reasons beyond him, which spring from favoritism, blackmail, or the desire of a more powerful man. Camilla is not chosen for her talent. She is designated as property of the system. The film, Visionary, seems to foreshadow the Weinstein scandal and the #MeToo movement by depicting Hollywood as a male-run ecosystem, brutal and predatory, where women are the first victims of an implicit, deadly contract. Diane's trajectory perfectly illustrates this mechanism of destruction. Her talent is real, as the audition shows, yet it is not enough. Her failure is not personal, it is systemic. She watches, powerless and humiliated, the success of Camilla, which she sees as a betrayal, but which is in fact proof that Camilla has, in one way or another, played the game and accepted the unwritten rules of the system. Diane's jealousy is not a simple romantic feeling. It is the rage of someone who lost a game she did not even know she was forced to play. The relationship between Diane and Camilla goes beyond simple romantic rivalry. It is a toxic dynamic created from scratch by the macho environment. The system places women in permanent competition for a place in the sun that is by definition rare and arbitrarily granted by men. It pushes them to internalize this rivalry, to see in the other not a fellow sufferer, but an enemy to bring down. Diane's hatred for Camilla is the direct product of this perverse logic. By ordering her murder, she only completes the ultimate logic of the system that crushed her. If the other is the obstacle to my success, then her disappearance is the solution. The suicide that follows is the final act of someone who realizes, too late, that she only destroyed herself while thinking she was destroying a rival, while the true culprit, the system, continues to function without a hitch. Thus, Lynch does not film a women's story. He films how the Hollywood patriarchy manufactures female suffering. The real monster is not Diane, nor even Camilla. The real monster is the invisible architecture of power, corruption, and predation that frames them both and uses them until they are destroyed. The film is a stinging accusation against a machine that must first crush those who dare to believe in it, in order to produce dreams for the world. Lynch's critique also takes the form of a dissection of the visual codes and physical archetypes that Hollywood imposes. Naomi Watts, Betty, and Laura Harring, Rita, are photogenic, young, slim, with luxuriant hair. They perfectly capture the beauty ideal of the early 2000s. But Lynch does not celebrate this ideal. He exposes its artificial construction and its symbolic violence. This culminates in a key sequence, around 1 hour 36. After the horrifying discovery of a decomposing body on Diane Selwyn's bed, Rita, in tears, runs away. Rita hides in the bathroom and, in a gesture of terror and despair, starts hacking off her hair in a furious, chaotic way. This gesture is not trivial, it belongs to a well-established cinematic trope. The haircut scene as a moment of transformation and female empowerment. From Mulan, who sacrifices herself to save her father by renouncing her appearance, to G.Y. Jane, where Demi Moore shaves her head to integrate into a man's world, to Joy, where Jennifer Lawrence cuts her long hair to mark her entry into the ruthless world of business, cinema has often used haircutting as a metaphor for rebirth by erasing traditional femininity. In real life, Britney Spears' radical gesture in 2007, shaving her head, was seen as a symptom of extreme psychological distress, a desperate attempt to take back control over her body and image, literally cutting herself off from what was expected of her. Lynch knows this film language perfectly, but he subverts it. Here, the haircut is not liberation. It is an act of panic, a mask adopted under pressure. Betty enters and, in a gesture that is both caring and unsettling, does not finish the cut, but instead puts a blonde wig on her. The choice of a wig, not dye, is crucial. The Hollywood woman, a white, blonde, sensual archetype directly inherited from sex symbols like Marilyn Monroe or Rita Hayworth, whose poster is visible in the room. Lynch asks a question: is this image an identity or a uniform? By becoming this ideal blonde, does Rita become herself or simply a copy of Betty? Herself a copy of a fantasized ideal? The scene chills because it shows how the Hollywood machine produces clones, erases individualities, and molds them into a standardized, sellable shape. The blonde wig is the stigma of this logic, a ready-to-wear identity, interchangeable and profoundly fake. It is impossible to watch Mulholland Drive without seeing its influence spread, even in unexpected places. A striking echo, revealing its reach, appears on 90210. In its pilot, the new protagonist, Annie Wilson, a naive girl from Kansas who arrives in Beverly Hills, is staged in a direct homage to Lynch's film. After a social humiliation by the queen of the high school, Naomi Clark, Annie, lost and in tears at the wheel on Mulholland Drive, accidentally runs over a homeless man. This structural plagiarism is not trivial. The series, an archetype of sanitized California teen drama, reuses Lynch's mythology to give it a conventional, moralizing resolution. Where Lynch's film explores the psychological and systemic abysses opened by the accident, 90210 uses the same event as a simple narrative engine for a plot of redemption and personal growth. The accident on Mulholland Drive in Lynch is the ontological break that opens the door to hell. In 90210, it is only a misstep on the road to the American dream, which continues without hindrance. This appropriation is the ultimate proof of Mulholland Drive's iconic status. It has become the unavoidable point of reference to symbolize, even in watered-down form, the hidden and dangerous face of the Californian fantasy, to the point that the quintessential teen series must claim it to shore up its own dramatic credibility. This denunciation grows from Lynch's deep fascination with Hollywood mythology and figures. Lynch has a passion for the representation of the actress in cinema. His entire body of work speaks with the ghosts of the Golden Age, those great figures of the 1950s that shaped his childhood imagination and that he keeps reworking, perverting, or exalting. In Mulholland Drive, this critical homage passes through a direct and deliberate reference to Alfred Hitchcock, the absolute master of the platinum blonde. We find the archetypal figures of the blonde woman and the brunette woman from Vertigo. Rita, the mysterious, sensual brunette, amnesiac and vulnerable, is Hitchcock's Madeline or Judy, an object of desire and inquiry whose identity is a lure. Betty, the radiant blonde, naive and determined, embodies the fantasy of the American ideal woman, a role she slips into with an almost unsettling perfection, like Kim Novak in Vertigo. But Lynch does not settle for citation. He twists and subverts these archetypes. In Hitchcock, the blonde and brunette duality is a male fantasy that the hero tries to control and shape. In Lynch, it is the women themselves who, trapped in this game of roles, try to reclaim these images. Their relationship is not orchestrated by a man. In the first part of the film, it becomes an alliance against oblivion and against the system. That is what makes the collapse in the second part even more tragic. The dream of sisterhood and genuine love shatters on the rocks of Hollywood reality. where the patriarchal system reasserts itself and forces them to become rivals again, objects competing in a market organized by and for men. Lynch uses the very language of classic Hollywood, its archetypes, its figures, its colors, to reveal the toxic mechanics underneath. He shows how these images, beautiful on the surface, serve as tools of a system that ultimately crushes those who try to embody them. 23 years after its release, Lynch's prophecy has come true with terrifying precision. Hollywood sinks into compulsive repetition of franchises, while the predatory mechanisms denounced by the film have been exposed by #MeToo. Yet Lynch's lucidity is not without hope. As Monica Bellucci says in Twin Peaks: The Return, we are like the dreamer who dreams and then lives inside his dream. This is Mulholland Drive's final provocation. We are not only victims of this system, we are its active accomplices through our willing consumption of its mirages. To recognize this complicity is to discover our most fundamental power, the power to create another dream. There is a last and cruel irony. The film itself seems to mirror the system it denounces. We may rejoice that Mulholland Drive gave Naomi Watts the brilliant international career she deserved, propelling an actress on the verge of giving up to the top. We can also regret that Laura Harring, equally radiant and crucial in the film, did not meet the same fate. In Lynch's world, two categories of actresses seem to exist: those who, like Laura Dern, Patricia Arquette, or Naomi Watts, use their collaboration with the director as a springboard to undeniable recognition, and those who, like Sherilyn Fenn, Cheryl Lee, or Laura Harring, remain forever captive to the mythical image he created for them, without managing to secure a lasting place in the very system Lynch criticizes. This dichotomy may not be the director's doing, but it reflects exactly the merciless Hollywood machine he describes. A system that crowns only a handful of chosen ones, often for opaque reasons, and leaves so many others behind. Mulholland Drive is a masterpiece precisely because it is at once a prophecy, a denunciation, and, in spite of itself, the tragic mirror of its own mechanisms. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more.